Live. All right. So, just a quick intro to guys listening to the podcast right now and joining us. Just want to say welcome to the Superlative Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Bushi. Every episode, one guest, a founder, investor, operator, or someone who's just built or completed at the level most people only read about. The conversation covers their journey, what they discovered along the way, and what most people get to hear and where they think the field is going. No edits, no post production, just one sharp conversation. And let's get into it. So today we have Varun Turlapati. He's managing director at Chaanakya Capital. I hope I pronounced that properly. And he began his career as a software engineer on an H-1B visa and then quietly built a fund from scratch while most of his peers told him the category was too nascent. So before we get into your journey, could you give us 2 sentences on what your firm is and what you're building? And then we'll come back to that.
Yeah, Chaanakya Capital is a 2 million early stage venture capital firm investing in neurotech devices. That's it. We go as early as pre-seed all the way through Series A, because in the neurotech space, Series A companies could also often be valued lower than your typical maybe AI SaaS companies. So you don't see that the valuation inflection until after Series A. So for us, all of that is still early stage for us.
That is really cool. I think there's some like really good hints on something to learn about the category you're in. So before we dive into that, let's get into your what made you the man you are today, right? So the earliest thing I was reading some material on you before doing this podcast, and the earliest thing that you say you remember was wanting to be a train conductor. Growing up in India, that image, you at the front of a locomotive carrying people through unknown lands, you said that dream is still carrying you forward. What is it about that image? What was it really about that image for you as a kid?
First of all, just when you said that same thing, it's about me, obviously, and I know that story too. But it made my hair stand on my end, right? That's how passionate that image is for me. So it's almost like a dream that hasn't yet come true. But someday, maybe very closer to retirement. I don't even know if I'm the kind of person who likes retirement as a concept. But maybe someday I'll have a train. I just wanted to bring that up. I said like raw uncut, so that's exactly it. I There's something about the trains that when I could start making sense of it, I tried to rationalize, like understand what is it about trains that I really, really am passionate of, like something very inexplicable, and I don't know why. And turns out that my mom tells me that when I was maybe a 1.5 year old, something like that, with my neck muscles just forming, then they used to go for a walk, both of them, with one of them carrying me on the shoulder. And if it was my mom, and they're near a train station, she could not absolutely control my neck, because apparently I would go follow carriage to carriage, everything like at that speed, and my neck muscles were just still forming. And so my dad had to hold me, and and he would still let me watch the train, but at least he had a support for my neck.
Yeah.
And apparently that's how it was. So I don't know, at 1.5 there's nothing to rationalize, but somehow I was drawn to trains. And then
Must have been really fascinated by the motion of it all.
maybe I don't know, maybe the sound, motion. And then soon it became a symbolic symbol for something to take me to my grandfather or my grandparents, and then something to bring me back to school, right? Like from my the native town where my grandparents lived, from there back to my hometown where I grew up in Bombay. It was train for me. And then you know in India, of course, when you do a train journey from one part to the other, along the way you see subcultures changing, languages changing, scripts changing, and I think
Yeah. India is a big place.
yeah, and the whole thing became part of this whole journey where I started getting more and more drawn and more attracted to trains as a concept. And of course, someday I still want to go into that locomotive and just do that once at least.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I I was reading up on like how screenwriters sometimes use trains and the image of trains as a symbol of moving forward or time passing, right? So that's really powerful. So, and talking about like passage of time, when you moved to California, right? And then by your own account, you didn't even know what venture capital was. You'd go to lunch and learn sessions at your startup and watch the room change when investors walked in. Um, what did you see in those rooms that you hadn't seen before?
Well, first, you've done solid research, so kudos to you. That's some fantastic stuff there. What did I see change? Look, here was this VC who would walk in, and everybody would be like, oh, either taking seats or just like grabbing lunch quickly, or finishing every other conversation, going to get a chair to front row to listen to what this VC had to say. You know, for me, yeah, I was still at a phase where I was focused more on the personal growth than professionally launching my career forward much.
Mm,
What I mean by that is, up until then, I had done quite a lot of things on the personal front to help me grow, and I felt very enriched by my 4.5 years of life in a small town called Urbana-Champaign in Illinois. uh, I would say that's the most formative 4 years, I would say, outside of like any teen years or any early years. Informed a lot. It was good. Some of my favorite experiences include being able to teach at a medium security prison in Illinois as part of like an educational reformative effort, right? And so I that was great, and I think my career felt a little stagnating. I moved to the Silicon Valley, and so that's probably why I didn't pay attention to this concept of VC. I didn't even like care for it because of my I was not tuned to that. But then when I saw these, and I saw like how people want to pay attention to what this person is saying, and this person did have some things to say, right? Like, hey, here's how the industry is moving, and I was like, this guy seems somewhat young. It's not like it's a 90-year-old who knows everything and has seen it all, but has that kind of the knowledge, the storytelling, as well as the charm to keep the room engaged and
mm,
answer questions too. So for me, it immediately became like, okay, this person somehow has this ability, which is a combination of obviously having money, and people tend to listen to people with money, yeah, but
yep,
also
yep.
people with knowledge, but also combination, not just knowledge and money, but the powerful ones are the ones who can tell stories, right, and inspire thoughts, inspire ideas, inspire like future problem solutions, right? And so I think that for me was what I saw this VC guy as. And I said, well, that's what I want to be, or something like that is what I want to be, which I always wanted to be
Mm,
as a kid too. Someone to make a difference in people's lives and animals' lives. And we just talked about it prior to the show.
yeah.
Animals, like voiceless creatures, and I've always wanted to make a difference. And so in this case, it turned out that VC is one manifestation of such a potentially influential problem solver, right?
Mm,
And this VC doesn't have to write code all the time, which at that time I was writing code, right? Developing software for companies very small to very big. So saying,
yeah.
you can solve problems in ways other than just running the books or writing programs or doing HR. Like there are functions that I kind of understood, and then this is one function which seemed to be all pervasive. So I said, yeah, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, that's really powerful, and it's really interesting that you resonated with the storytelling aspect and the ability to like weave a narrative and have people follow a motive or a thesis, so to speak, right? And it sounded earlier also you were working on your network building, right? During those formative years while you weren't able to act yet, right? Were you building anything else during those years while you were not being able to invest?
Yeah. So 2015 was that year when I first formally understood what venture capital meant. And I think around that time, I also started reading the Zero to One book by Peter Thiel.
Mm.
to understand more of what is the 0 to 1, what is startups, how do they work even, and then read Hoffman's book as well, which now I forget the name of, the founder of LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I read that book as well, and so some of these helped me at that point, starting to understand what besides technology do I need to do, right? Now, some parts I was already doing in some capacity. So this broad level networking at the end of the day is some sort of socialization, right? You interact, you speak, you get people to talk, understand, and so on and so forth. And so that I was doing, but it was not with like any motive of technological growth or something. Even now, of course, that's not the way I start like going about networking. But those are things, and then the other main, so the first prereq for me internally was like, look, this person as a VC is able to talk about how database backup recovery works, or how storage works, and devices and so on.
Okay.
See,
Yep.
well, the VC didn't seem to be also an electrical engineer like me, but somehow had this understanding.
A
I was,
structural understanding.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so it started becoming obvious that, like, look, either I need to learn a lot more of technology to be able to then wake up in the middle of the night, be quizzed on something, and be able to rattle off answers, or uh, something else needs to happen. And I wasn't necessarily sure what. But the first thing seemed a little more in my control. I said, look, how about this? How about I start picking up technology faster than until that point? Let me do something. Let me put myself in uncomfortable situations where I may be the dumbest guy in the room. Doesn't matter. But let me see. Let me try to survive. It'll be a learning lesson. And so I did that over a series of a few startups, and then that led me to Roblox, which eventually IPO'd while I was still there. And so uh, I, I always put myself in uncomfortable positions. In fact, so much so that sometimes my friends would be like, or my parents also would be like, well, you're doing well and you may get promoted, so why don't you, like, what's going on? Why are you switching now? I said, well, yeah, but sure, I'll get that promotion, but I think this is it. Like, I've learned what I need to, and I feel like this is saturating. I need to do something else. And so to me, it was very clear why I was doing it. To nobody else, it made sense.
Hmm.
And so, but I'm glad I did it that way. I really fed that hunger of feeling inadequate and needing to do something. So I said, okay, well, let's learn this, let's learn that, to the extent I could. And then over a period of time, it occurred to me like, okay, look, once I've applied it here, then I've applied again software at a company like Roblox, then a fintech company, then a company like Walmart. Like software, the basic building blocks are kind of similar. You kind of boil down the problem, try to solve it the same way. Of course, there will be new things you need to do because new problems arise, but that's good. That's that, and I should be able to do it anywhere, even medical field, education, anywhere.
Mm.
And so that started happening soon. So that was good. And of course, when the money came in, that desire to invest and then get in, like the same thing that I did for career to get the technological bit, I also wanted to do for the investment and the VC side of things. Just sitting and reading books or watching YouTube videos would not have cut it for me. So I had to put some money. Sure, maybe I would have lost some money, but maybe somewhere I would have learned some important things. In a very different way of looking at it, it's also like your MBA. Essentially, you're doing it, you're spending money while you're doing something, being more hands-on. So I challenged myself to do those things. So career-wise, that was the first steps I had outlined, and then once I was doing that in midway mark, like I said, I was able to generalize this problem solving. Then I wanted to specifically focus on areas that to me mattered a lot: healthcare, education, and climate, right? Climate or
Okay.
food, essentially. So somewhere in there, I would have landed as either a founder of a company, or, well, here I am, VC of a neurotech firm. Right? So,
Yeah. I want to go back to the books that you were reading, right? Because like I know myself, I read Peter Thiel's 0 to 1, right? And it's an interesting take on how to build companies, right? Build a monopoly, and do it, and wants to become a monopoly, destroy or avoid competition at all costs, right? And it makes me think of companies that work like Facebook and stuff like that, are there other philosophies that you'd recommend in terms of company building that are that go perpendicular to what Peter Thiel's writing, or that would complement it? I'm just asking blindly if there's something I could look at, because that's a very interesting
Yeah,
angle of yours.
I think um, I would like to say a lot more, and now knowing more about how Peter Thiel has been ever since, and in personal life and his
Mm,
beliefs and so on. There are not a lot of things that I agree with Peter Thiel on.
mm,
Now, obviously, people will be like, "Oh, well, he's Peter Thiel and you are you." Sure, yeah, great. But here's the thing that I don't like to do, which is to um, when in a position of power or influence, if you can not beat down on people below you, I think that is at least a low bar that I would like to hold myself to. That's the
mm.
number one thing I want to really clarify, right? But and it ties into some of this company building culture, this glorification of this ruthless, cut everything out at all cost kind of a thing, maybe setting us up to be these kind of people who are very toxic, right? Um,
That's where blitzscaling concepts came from, I think. Peter Thiel was, it felt like blitzscaling was fundamental. Peter 0 to 1 was fundamental to blitzscaling, which was like rapid growth, rapid, so much spending of money. Sorry, I'm just like agreeing with you.
no,
Yeah.
I mean that's what I'm saying. So one way or the other, look, and there are maybe there may have been points in time where that was essential to inspire a whole generation of entrepreneurs. I don't dispute that. What I'm saying is there are also opportunities for us to course correct on certain things. Not everything the
Mm,
way has been said is the way to go about it only, right? We already see a lot of issues now. Like you can go fast and what is that? Go fast and break things, right?
yes, that's a Facebook mantra. Yes.
Which is great. Try saying that to a patient who has a device embedded in their head, in their brain, or try saying that to somebody who has a heart stent, for example, right? Like, sure, at a very civilization level, yeah, go fast, break things, and so on, and maybe some mistakes will happen. Yeah, but then don't like normalize it, or don't just say things in every field. That's the way to go about it. And what
Mm,
I really do like is any philosophy that is about iteration. I think that's what I want to double down on. And maybe this is the time to do it.
mm,
The second thing to do for sure is to not throw AI at everything, right? Meaning, again, to generalize that learning, it is what is a problem that needs to be solved and how do you go about solving it, rather than here is a solution and I will custom fit it to everything, right? So AI, you have to be very careful that it should not be like that. So I think from here to the next maybe 10 years, um, I would say the successful founders are those who embody the problem that they're trying to solve. They have to deeply understand it, and then they have to look for solutions. In order to look for solutions, they have to be receptive to the ground level feedback.
mm,
Ground level feedback, in some cases, B2B SaaS software could be just your customers, potential customers, understand what they're trying to do and solve it. In the cases of medical field, you have different users, you have the patients themselves, patients families, then you have the caregiver or the doctors or the clinicians, surgeons, and then you have the hospital system and the insurance and so on. So these are all the stakeholders. So you have
mm.
to understand their perspectives and see what you're trying to solve, and therefore what is a good iteration. And in some cases it does take a lot of time to bang at the door and to break it down. So but persistence is pretty important, patience is very important. So I think you can still go fast, but
Okay.
my favorite African proverb is I believe from Africa, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You can do a combination, right? You can do a little bit of both. Make sure that you're not going so fast that you're alone and nobody understands, and you build something which nobody cares for, right? What's the point of
Yeah.
doing?
You're way ahead of everybody. Yeah.
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 So that is that, and the other thing is, look, I think a lot of technology is going so far that we are almost, as humanity, almost very proud of ourselves to say like, oh wow, we have explored the deepest ends of the universe and deepest trenches of the ocean and so on, we have not quite understood like the depths of what lies between the two years here, right? So how about we do that? How about we also solve some of the basic problems which should not need to be problems at this point, but here
Mm.
we are. So do those, and then let's save what we have. Let's challenge us to do ourselves to do that, and then we can surely build spaceships to take us to the other galaxies and so on.
Yeah, Mars, for example.
Yeah.
So that's we're getting into like how you think about like problem solving, which is like really really something I want to get into. Just one last question, right? You've been in rooms with engineers and operators and VCs for almost 2 decades. What's the most you come from a background like of being a computer engineer. What's the thing that most engineers never figure out about how the world actually works? What's the blind spot?
Uh, like a technological blind spot, or you're saying like me?
About yeah, just like perspective on the world.
Yeah, I think a lot of engineers. I don't want to like completely stereotype here, right? Because
Mm,
yeah, I've been an engineer, but I've been told I'm a different kind of an engineer. I think um, getting overly analytical and putting numbers into everything may be one of the things that we trip ourselves into doing very frequently. Yes, you want to understand and objectify, or sorry, objectively or quantitatively and qualitatively analyze problem solutions, metrics, and so on to see where you're going. But it cannot only be that, because any number that you think of or any statistic you think of is only one part of the truth, right? And so you can say statistically 100% of the people who drink water die. Yes, but is what do you like? Is that really important there?
it's
But
not the cause of people dying. Yeah.
so we have to be careful. I think engineers may tend to do that quite a lot. And the
Mm,
other thing is engineers tend to flex on the technology for the sake of technology, because that's what they know, right? That they want to be at the cutting edge of things that they're building and so on. And so it is important to every time you do that in discussions. I no engineers talking to each other, maybe like let's see like
mm,
is this a discussion where we are just doing this because we want to show who has better understanding of technology, or is it something like, hey, problem, solution, this solution achieves this solution achieves this other thing, and now you're weighing out pros and cons. That's the other thing that engineers tend to do as well. Like it's almost like an absolutism there, like this problem, this solution is the best way to go about it. Well, maybe not. Maybe you can arrive at that and you are overestimating certain things. And sure, from your experiences, some of those things may be important. Like somebody coming from a customer success perspective can say, oh, this will cause a bug and it will cause like 50 person hours of call time lost, which we could have spent on coding and programming and things like that. Yeah, that's a perspective. Somebody else may say, you know what, those 50 hours are easier for now because we have a severe infrastructure gap. We need to procure something for worth 500,000 to first solve this problem. And
mm.
so in the meanwhile, we can suck up the 50 person hours of call time. And that's also, again, I've overly simplified this kind of a
Yep, yep.
discussion, but these are where often engineers get into tussles. Maybe that's what we need to, again, go back to the first principles, understand
Yeah,
the full perspective as much as you can, and then try to solve the problems.
yeah. Thanks for sharing that. You know, it reminds me of the video of Elon Musk. He was in front of like the space. He was in front of SpaceX, and he was being interviewed, and he was talking about 5 things to avoid, and one of them was optimizing for things that shouldn't be optimized. I remember that. Um,
As much
and
as I generally disagree with him, I think that part I do agree with him.
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
Absolutely. Like I think engineers especially tend to start optimizing things right away. In fact, that is something that even on a personal level, day-to-day basis, I try to not do that, even though I tend to want to do that. Right?
yeah,
Uh, it could be a lazy perspective, which is also something that engineers like to be lazy and just automate things.
yeah.
Ironically, we do spend a lot of time trying to automate and fix bugs and so on. So there is that entire thing there. Yeah.
Yeah, and talking about like things that are not in the habit of doing things, right? Going back to the firm, neurotech and medtech are not obvious places like to plant your flag in 2025. AI is the flavor of the month. Clean tech was the flavor before that. You chose, the mind, the brain. Like, would like to share more on that?
Definitely. In fact, I would challenge you. Actually, now to say AI is the next flavor is like saying, in real estate is the best way to invest, or like gold is
It's
the
a
best way to go. So, because look, everybody now has AI, and AI is pretty commoditized, and of course, there are so many paradigms now within just what we broadly call AI.
mm,
So once it is commoditized, I was talking to Charles prior to this. I said,
mm,
look, every person and their cat can start a company now. So that in itself is not a challenge anymore. Technology also is not a challenge anymore, not as much at least. The barrier to entry is lower so that everybody can still start solving technical problems without being a technical expert. It is sort of like having a car now which has all these alarm systems in place so that you don't have to be a mechanic to kind of dismantle the engine parts and figure out something is going wrong. You have alarms. So even as a noob, all you need to do is like, hey, and the icons are also instinctive, like you see it and you're like, oh, oil, something with oil. That's all you need to know, at least, right? So then that's
yeah.
good. And so that is sort of where technology has gone to now, which is great. It enables a lot more, but it's
Mm,
also enabling a lot more, and it gives us the false sense of security that therefore we can solve the problem. But it goes back to the same thing: GTM, go to market. Are you solving the right problem? Are you solving a problem that will have revenue because somebody wants to pay you to solve that problem, or are you just doing it because you think that is the best way to do it, right? And you think 1,000 people, potential customers saying yes, we will buy it is good enough, but maybe when you price it, and they are not agreeing on the price point. Have you thought about that? So important to think about these things. From the venture, so okay, so going back to your original question, all of that was to say AI, when everybody has now discovered and understood it, I don't feel is that kind of a disruptive thing. Yeah, sure, you can do more. You can go deeper and deeper into this. But
okay.
neurotech is, and medtech are not, how do I, like, everyone needs something in neuro or medtech, I would say, right? Or would potentially need. We think about aging as like, oh, after 40, after 35, maybe after 60, we'll need some things. But guess what? I'd say we are aging from the minute we are born. And everybody
True.
who is born uh, needs something medical, right? It may not be pills, it may not be device, but it's something in the medical, healthcare, food, basic things that we always need. And so it is a market that impacts literally everyone of the currently 8 plus billion population that we have. So that is an always going to be a market, right? You can argue that education may not go far, reaching it to everyone. You may argue that ocean technology may not impact everyone or something like that, right? Any technology you build in farming, no, I get your point. Like, I'm saying you can make a case where some technologies are not applicable to everyone,
Yeah.
but there are some like neurotech or medtech which is applicable to everyone in theory.
So can I rephrase that? It sounds like you're saying neurotech and medtech is like bottled water, right? People will need it.
Yes.
It will be people will always buy it, not necessarily now, but different parts of their life as they
Correct.
grow.
Correct. And that
Okay.
water can also like double down as like, oh, you know what, you want some flavor? Okay, add some flavor, but you still drink the water. Right? Oh, now I want lemon juice squeeze in it. Okay, yeah, sure, go ahead. But that bottled water plus some of these other things is what you're going for. Now, but also let me not uh, seem like I'm overly trivializing this analogy here.
Mm,
But look at it also this way. Even AI, right? In 2016 to 2018, close to 2020 time frame, anyone would tell you, oh yeah, AI is being researched, some libraries are going on, some Python package you need to do, some TensorFlow and this and that. It always seemed like it was research, and sometime in the future something will happen and there will be flying cars. That's how we used to imagine AI. But guess what, 2022 open AI, and now everything is commoditized, right? And so when you, and now it's become a commoditized enabler of other things to do, so it simplified things.
Mm.
We also think neurotech is that, because look, it has some critical mass of research that has been happening. It is a harder field than AI because it's not just pure software, right? And so now, when some of these technologies pick up, they get approved, they get absorbed into the society, then you will find prevalence, then you will start seeing the net benefits. Perhaps things like, simple thing, if you side by side put a solution, which is a pharmaceutical solution versus a device, medical device solution, medical device almost always stands out superior, not because it's more efficacious, but because it has near zero side effects versus pharmaceuticals will have some side effects. So that's another angle we look at it. So when
Mm.
you look at a general demand for, not having, not taking in things which cause other problems, right? Food, we are trying to be careful, organic, sustainably farmed, so on. Same with devices that will work with us. We want to be careful, and I think devices is a strong play, and they will become more normal. And if you look at even the consumer space, wearables, a lot of things are trying to give you insights into what is happening in your body. And so
Mm.
people are very interested in having that car dashboard of what's going wrong in the body real time on them. So it could be a Fitbit, it could be a ring, it could be glasses, it could be something.
Uh,
But you want more of these, guess what, the fundamentally strong technologies are the ones that are grounded in medical biological sciences and neurosciences, and then they build and advance this ability for us to look at things that are going on inside the body, sort of like, hey Edward, are you feverish? Well, let me see you do that. Well, sometimes you may feel like that, but then what do you do next? You put a thermometer, and then you say,
under indicators, yeah.
okay, now I know I'm feverish. Same way, you want some things which are as simple as that. And guess what? All of those are neurotech, or
Yeah.
have the neurotech potential. So I say that is the next thing to pay attention to.
Gotcha. I hope I'm not challenging you on this next question, right?
You should by
Uh,
all means challenge me. No,
oh,
no worries.
okay, all right. So the thesis, right, that you're in combines ag tech, ed tech, clean tech, neurotech, right? They're impact categories, right? They're not purely return sectors. Um, and so it sounds like it's idealistic, right? And I might be making assumptions here, but what's the hardest thing you learned about trying to do good while trying to make money at the same time?
Yeah, it is a hard problem. But also, let me correct, just to be sure.
Okay.
Fund is only investing in neurotech.
Oh, okay.
Well, my personal thesis included some of these other things you said, and it still remains true. I'm still passionate about some of those areas, and I'm seeing that it's harder to make things combine, because again, you have to understand who the players are, stakeholders are, and how to appeal to those, and how to make things easier. The moment you solve it,
Mm.
the moment you make somebody's life easier on a million cuts kind of an analogy, then you're good, right? But on the other hand, if you are the kind of solution which, when a person with a fracture walks into an orthopedic clinic, and the doctor gives you like, oh, your bone, you broke your bones, okay, here, let me give you calcium supplements, are you going to take that, right? And so your solutions have to be like that. What is the exact problem and how you're solving it? And unfortunately, I think we've kind of landed all over the place, and we've kind of distracted ourselves with some of these other areas. But again, Chanakya Capital, we invest only in neurotech. But I'll extend your question to cover any of these aspects. It is hard because sometimes you look at problem, solution, approach, what the startup is doing and how much they're fundraising and what the commercial potential is. And as VCs, we always want to look at money making opportunities. That's kind of
Mm.
fundamental to this. As VCs, we are not going in and saying, what if that fails? Well, if that's the case, we would not be VCs. We would be maybe a bank loan lender or something of that sort, right? Then we'll do all the underwriting with all sorts of details and how many bones you have in your body and how many strands of hair, etc., etc. We'll calculate all that, and then we'll say, okay, we'll give you a $5,000 loan, right? But that's not what VCs do. There's some risk that they're able to take, which is because there is a desire to break past all of these things that are common, disrupt, build something completely new. That's where again 0 to 1, the book comes into picture, right? Like think of something that is completely like not a norm. So if you want to solve a traffic situation, you're not going to do much by adding one more lane. When it was only one and
Yes.
you add one more lane, sure. But you have two, now you do four, marginal. When you already have four, you're going to make eight, really. But instead, how about make a train route? Or how about maybe make, if in places with water, you're going to think about waterways as well. So you want to connect all these multi modes and bring them together and integrate them well for a good solution. So
Mm,
that disruption is what we need to look at. And so in that view, with neurotech, the other challenge is we want to believe that these devices work, but guess what? You still have to study if the body is responding to it fine, and that may take about 3 years to even see. So you have to be
yeah.
patient in that capital, and that is something which a traditional VC model is not very suitable for investing in this sector. But
Mm,
we try to make it happen, and that is the hard part. We like this. It's a Parkinson's treatment device. Suppose I'm just making up a hypothetical here.
sure.
Parkinson's treatment device. You want it to work, and yes, the fundamentals are there to make it work. It may take some tweaking, and that tweaking are like in micro doses, and that is for the body. That's strong enough change. But guess what? It takes time. You do it, test it out, and these are real patients. So you can't just be like, oh, let's rush, let's get like 100 patients and just kill them all along the way, right? So that's not what you want to do. Then you get the results, then you iterate, then you make something else happen. It takes time. Biology takes time, right?
Mm,
Biology doesn't care for your DPI and TBPI. That is where it starts becoming hard, and you still want to do the right thing. And that's why we also focus not on the consumer side, where you can arguably just say, oh, we are not FDA approved, but use it at your own risk, kind of a thing. But we want to be clinically FDA approved and doctor approved and those kind of things. So clinical grade devices is what we look for. And
yeah.
that's
That.
where we keep it true. We keep ourselves true to that mission.
Yeah. It's really good that you pointed that out, right? Like when you're talking about devices that help human beings, you need time to see its effects, right? And see its effectiveness. So, and I appreciate you correcting me on the thesis of the company. And I want to get to the firm, right? You gave us two sentences at the top, and now that we know your story and how you uh, think about the world, right? What is Chanakya Capital really building, and why does it matter now?
Yeah, so the fund to power neurotech startups essentially is what we're doing. Devices specifically, we have four companies in our portfolio. This has happened within the first 9-10 months of launch. As of now, I think we are a year old as a firm. So yay, and here's to more. What we're looking to do is back about maybe 15 companies, if not 20. Given the check sizes we do, we may be able to do that. We may be able to go early to mid level within the early stages of these startups, and some of them will start showing more successful, inflection points, like they're doing something regulatory wise and they've been
Mm,
approved, and they're now able to commercialize. They're able to now move technology from the US to maybe India, from maybe like Israel to Latin America or something like that, right? So you have all of these plays that can happen when they're scaling, and so those will be interesting to watch. But this fund is just the first part. It's a stepping stone for me. Much like in my career, I've done all of these in stepping stones. This is the first from engineering to VC kind of a stepping stone, but that's not the end goal. The end goal might be something else. Right now, I may not know exactly what it is. Absent all of that, I want to build a strong ecosystem of founders, exited founders, aspiring new founders, scientists, clinicians, surgeons,
mm.
accelerators, incubators, universities, tech transfer programs, and co VCs like other VCs, and build this kind of a network for that. If you want to go far, go together. That's,
Yeah.
so that I am trying to do day to day, taking steps, making connections, explaining to them in all candor and transparency, hey, here's how we could do things and so on. Not every time everybody will vibe with that, but along the way, again, you have provided me a platform. I'm talking to people through you now. And so this is my outreach to them. And in the other one, I missed out investors as well. We need investors into this ecosystem as well, right? And
Mm.
so that's what we're trying to build for this year. The goal is to try to finish closing the fund. We are close to 50% raised, and we need the remaining 50% to first get to what we committed to ourselves. Then probably see if we can extend it and bring back more money into some of these successful companies. We want to do that, and then see some of these companies succeed, then take that confidence and build that next thing that we are looking to build, right? So anyone who can be a part of this journey is, please do reach out.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought it up. I was doing some preliminary reading on one of the articles that you were involved in, and you described your ideal portfolio companies uh, with founders who have fires in their bellies and often an underdog or unsung hero. Uh, what does the founder you want most to look like, that you want most to back, right? Look like on a Tuesday when nothing is going well.
Yeah, somebody who is calm outwardly, is still resiliently, determinedly looking to stay in there, not looking for an out, but looking to stay in there and see through it. I know sounds pretty filmy, and but that's I think that's what venture capital is. A lot of these are like these one-off success stories for which the barrier is pretty high. It
Mm,
takes an incredible amount of resilience. A lot of these founders, not just our portfolio founders, everywhere else as well, people are like betting their retirement accounts on some of their ventures. People are betting their. Some people have been like they've taken a loan against their house to make it happen because they're very passionate about the problem they're solving. So these are really, each of these have inspiring. Sorry, inspiration potentials, right? In each of these stories, and so that's where we are. So that venture capital pretty much is filled with stories like this. The ones that don't make it don't get talked about, but believe me, a lot of them are still doing something of that sort. Even the failed ones have done something and they still failed. So it's
mm,
it's a sad kind of a story, but like that's what we make this out to be. Like, so that's why it's not going to be easy. You have to have resilience. You have to have the fight in you to take it to the end.
mm,
Now, at some point, if you've gone far in a wrong direction, you should probably just quit and do something else instead, which also can enrich you. You still would be solving a problem, but at least you are solving a problem versus letting your ego take over and be like, no, 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 I will fight to the end because Varun said so. No, no. Understand, at every point, you should be iterating. Again, it goes back to that. If
mm,
you're on the wrong track, identify the soonest you can and do something about it. And that's why it's important to start with early feedback and
mm.
very frequent feedback. Once you've gone very far, yeah, a lot of things will not be very pleasant with people. Like, investors won't be happy and so on. But try to work with with individuals and companies which are going to be like this, which understand, hold you accountable, but also empathize and try to support you when you need. Right.
Hmm.
So, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, it does. And
Founders that I'm looking for are generally good people. They're receptive of feedback. They may know more than me. Of course, I want them to know more than me because they have a company that they're running and I'm just watching over and investing. So they
yeah,
should know more than me. But where they don't know, they should also be able to leverage other people who know more than them similarly, because they are
yes,
solving problems, not being egoistic or like I know everything sort of a thing. Those are
yeah,
things that I look for, like low ego, high confidence, and high resilience.
gotcha, gotcha. And so, Varun, like we're coming at the end of the podcast. I just want to close with one thing, one other question from an investor side of you, right? You started out as an engineer, right? You watched people come into the room and they were investors. You learned from them. Now, right, you are the one walking inside the room. Uh, what's one thing about what it actually takes to back a great company that you only understood once you were on the investor side of the table?
What do you mean? I only understood once, meaning like a 1 2 minute pitch sort of a thing, or
Oh, no. Like you you're now on the investor side, right? And what was the thing that helped you understand what it takes to make a really great company or to back a great company? Now that you're an investor, now that you've seasoned yourself.
I don't know. I don't know if I've seasoned myself. The attempt is to become better at seasoning, right?
Hmm.
There's no, like, yeah, we want to be perfect, but it's always going to be strive to perfection, uh, not be perfect. Or, yeah, I don't know. That would be very ironical given I usually like to be in uncomfortable spots. So, uh, what is it about backing successful companies? Well, as a fund, we are still early stage, but
Hmm.
some kind of indicators we look at are again same thing, right? Like how creative, resilient the founders are, the founding team is. Uh, are they taking in help and resources where they need? Sometimes people don't know to take help. They don't care to take help because they think they will figure it out. Sure, eventually, but maybe you're figuring it out now in the next 1 week is more important than you're arriving at that conclusion in 1 month. Because guess what? Like you said, AI making things so much easy for everyone. All it takes is one noisy startup to say, hey, we are doing this, and people's attention is on them now, and then you've lost the attention that you may have had if you'd done this in 1 week.
Hmm.
So this is important. So when we look at the companies, we look at this. Some of the backable companies are those which have shown quickness in that feedback and in that pivoting. Uh,
Hmm.
and so that is the best I can say. This is not only from my experience with my fund, but I've invested as an LP in other funds. And so I'm trying to see and understand as well. So I'm trying to give a general answer that is applicable to your question.
Fair. Yeah.
Um, because like I said, the fund remains to be seen, but fingers crossed and knock on the wood that we'll do very well, and we'll come back on this show and we'll celebrate it with like, hey, this is exactly what happened in these few companies cases, and then that's how this is a template that you can use. But I think broadly the template that I talked about is what makes the difference.
Okay, so that's perfect, and it's a great way to end the conversation. And one last thing, Varun, where can people find you on social media or on the internet?
I am very active on LinkedIn. My website is there. I mean, the company website, Chaanakya.capital, is there as well. If you're connected to any of the founders that I work with, or on LinkedIn, you find some common connections, I would encourage you to get a quick introduction through them. If not, at least leave me a message if you're cold outreaching. I do go through all the messages. And of course, you don't have to pretend to flatter me or something, or like say something in order to get to that attention. Just say what is it you're looking for. Sometimes it's much easier working with very straightforward asks rather
Mhm.
than like making something like, oh, I really admire what you've done and so on. No need all that. But yeah, otherwise I'm pretty approachable. If you see me somewhere in one of these startup events, something, just flag me down, say hi, talk about where you found me, or where you met me, or where you heard of me or something. And then that's pretty much it.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, guys, we're gonna end the this stream right now. So, Varun, thank you again for taking your time and on the Friday afternoon to chat with us and sharing with our audience like how what it takes to learn and iterate and how you knowledge doesn't really stop in one lane. You could it's in multiples. So, really appreciate your insights here, Varun. And yeah, let's have you again in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the opportunity, and I really enjoyed your questions and probing me. Really pretty good, and yeah, hopefully that future is pretty soon as well.
Yes, absolutely. All right, guys, we're gonna end the podcast.